Greetings, another follow-up video. My mother has a uncanny knack of sort of coming in when I'm recording, hence all the creaking and background noise in the last video. These things are sent to try us. It's amazing when you're on this spiritual awareness, how you get attacked. And also with the truth-seeking side, when you just point out something so obvious. I mean, how many times have you heard, for example, the Great Pyramid is estimated to weigh 6 or 7 million tons? Well, the obvious question from that is, well, whoever built it, must have had a very good knowledge of the ground on which to put such a structure of such immense weight. And it's when you start pointing out these things, it seems to set up a hostile reaction because you've dared to pose something outside the official narrative that it's not even occurred to them to even think of this. Same with this 12-sided stone block on Machu Picchu. Well, it's been suggested by Wise Up Channel that it's cast ancient concrete. Far more logical than this fantastical idea of carved stone from some quarry miles away and then transported over mountains and through lakes and whatever, on flimsy carts as well. We mustn't forget. It's just not logical, is it? And then you look at things like autism. It's seen as a weakness, but really is it? I mean, famous cases, you get people who are autistic, and they can look at a skyline and then recreate it down to every minute detail. I mean, that's quite an amazing skill. But this world that we're in, this is the crazy world. The things that happen while people are being killed and nobody is lifting a finger or seem quite happy with this to go on, all this suffering in the world. Well, have we really, from that side of things, got the right to look upon somebody who's autistic as having a weakness or any of these other supposed things? No, autism, for example, is being true to yourself and being outside of the control system, and that's what the control system does not like, because it is free and critical thinking and just looking at things in a different way. And why do we all have to have our brains wired exactly the same way and think exactly the same way? That's rather robotic, I think, and doesn't allow for individuality. You'll notice as well there's such a thing as diversity, which is all very well unless you have white skin. But then you have unity. Well, which do you want? Do you want unity or diversity? It's a bit of a contradiction, and it's this good cop, bad cop. If the dark side was just this as opposed to the light side, which is that, it would be very easy to work out. But the dark side will always play good cop, bad cop, and play two sides to keep everybody arguing, divided and conquered. Well, it's a crazy system, and there are other ways of doing things, and part of it is uncovering what has happened in the past. When we're talking in the spiritual realms, those that will attack that are seeing us as purely 3D solid beings, and we live and die and that's it, to all extent. Or they've latched onto something through their own lack of lack of self-discovery, and then trying to fill the void by just taking something that somebody else says is right and not really thinking about it. How long have these religious studies gone on, and reinterpretations of what this means and what that means, and doesn't actually get anywhere. It's just circular reasoning with all of it. There's no logic to it whatsoever, and that it's so sad, because people will defend a system that is actually working against them rather than be honest enough to say to themselves that they've been fooled. Well, I'd rather find out I'd been fooled earlier on than, say, be the very last person in this world to see that, something's seriously wrong here. Because surely that I would be more concerned that everybody would think, how come we all got it and you're the last one to get it? You just turn these perspectives around on things and it changes everything. Same as this, going back to this, all this ancient, these ancient structures of ginormous size. It's, why try and fit into this narrative of carved stone blocks when clearly it needs a re-examination of what actually rock is and what it is formed from, because it is not all formed from the same substance and or by the same methods. I mean, molten lava turns into rock, and you will not get straight lines in that. Nature does not produce straight lines like that. The control system will produce straight lines by trying to box you into one way of thinking or another. But it is all about thinking out the box and looking at things in new ways. It's no good going to these so-called experts who have spent years and years just going along with these ideas and not asking the basic questions. It does take fresh eyes to come in and look at this and ask these questions, which they don't like. But that's the way it is. It's, well, that doesn't make sense. If you are such an expert, perhaps you can explain it, but no, they just wrap it round, parrot fashion round things they have been told, and it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. When you start getting in onto the spiritual side and talking about things like such as angels, for example, well, it's pretty obvious with the physical body plan that we have. You cannot just stick on two wings. I mean, there's all the muscle and everything there. But we're not just a physical being. We are mind and soul, which are outside of the realities. I'll give you a very good example of this that you can all, I should imagine, this is the easiest way to explain it. You all experience anger and how real it feels. Well, I'm going to suggest you go to a surgeon and you get yourself opened up and get the surgeon to take anger out, and you'll find it hasn't got a physical form at all, but it is very real. So are you going to argue that and say that it doesn't exist? Because not everything has to have a physical form. And just because it doesn't have a physical form does not mean it does not exist. Thank you.